We have sound. Now let's make the screen react too. When feedback is just audio, it's good. When audio and visuals fire together, like the hit sound landing at exactly the same frame as the screen flash, it feels like a completely different game. It's tighter, more alive, more satisfying. We're building 3 visual feedback techniques today. A screen flash for hits, camera shake for impact, and an AnimationPlayer hit reaction on the enemy sprite. Then we'll make sure all of this is tied to the game state, not just triggering constantly and becoming noise. Okay, so we're going to start off here with, let's implement the screen flash. So like when your player gets hurt, it flashes the screen red real briefly. So let's start off with that. Excuse me, let's go into our player scene. We got our player here. We're going to add in a resource. We're going to add in a canvas layer. Canvas layer, here we go. Okay, and then remember, canvas layer is something that covers the entire screen. So then from there, we're going to add in a color rect. And we're going to make that color rect the entire, entire size of the screen. Okay, and then we're going to change the color of it. Let's make it, it's red. We're going to make it a little deep red that flashes. Okay. And then we're going to set the alpha to like about 0.6. Right like that, I think. Yeah, that should be good. Yeah. If you want to see what that looks like, we can come over here and, this is how dark it will get. Okay. And then what we need to do is we basically need to only trigger this red to show up and fade out when we get hit. So let's go ahead and let's see here. So we're going to do this one a little bit differently. We're going to do this with a tween. So let's go ahead and call this, oh, we already have a canvas layer. Oop. So let's add this to the canvas layer. So we don't need canvas layer 2. My bad. I need to look at my scene tree better. Okay. So we got this here. Let's add a child node. we're going to rename canvas layer. I'm going to call this overlay. Okay. We're going to add a script to the overlay. Create. And then the script, we're going to need to bring in this color rect. And what we're going to need to do, we're going to set by default, we're going to set the color rect dot modulate. And we're going to set that to color. And we're going to set it down to its current color. But we're going to set it to transparent by default. So it's going to make sure it's all invisible. It's not going to layer over anything. So if we come over here right now and we hit play, we don't see that rect anywhere. But if we'd set this to 1 and we hit play, notice the screen's going to be covered in red. So we're going to set this to 0 by default. We don't need a process here. And what we're going to do is function, and then we're going to call this, let's call it screen flash. Screen flash. Okay. And then what we're going to do in here, we're going to use something that's called a tween. And you kind of did this before if you use the continuous option in the animation player. It slowly changes a value from one point to another. So let's do a var, we're going to call it tween equals create tween. Okay. And then we're going to do tween dot tween property. Okay. And then what we need is to define the object. So in this case, it's going to be our color rect. And then what do we want to change about it? We want to change its modulate. In quotes, MOD, modulate. Okay. And then we have to say what the final value that we want it to be is. So we're going to take this color here. We're going to put this. And we're going to say .1. So we're going to fade it in. And then how long do we want it to go for? We want this to be a real quick flash. So let's do like 0.1. It's going to be really fast. And then what we're going to do is we're going to wait for the tween to finish. Tween.finished. Okay. And then we're going to do the exact opposite. We're going to fade it right back out. Oops. Copy down. Actually, we're going to take both of these lines. But then this time we're going to fade it back to 0. Okay. And we'll await this so that we don't trigger it again. Okay. And then so what we need now is on Mort, go in here, we need to bring in the overlay so that we have a reference to it. Copy, and we go down to his take damage. And here we're going to do overlay dot, what we just call it, screen flash. Save. So now in the overlay, it'll play this when we get hurt. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Oh, what happened here? We didn't fade back. So we asked, why didn't that work? It's because we're trying to reuse the same tween, and you can't do that. So what you need to do here is we're just going to take this. We're going to create a second tween, just called tween 2. Okay. And then we run this. Boom. Real quick. Yeah. So I made one change here because I kind of want to make it feel a little bit different. So like here, let's, real quick it hits and then the slower fade out. So let's see, how does this feel when we make that change? It's like, ow, fades back, ow, fades back. So, it's probably 3. It's probably going to be like our sweet spot for that. Ow. Ow. Yeah. So that's going to be like our sweet spot. It's a 0.3. And the key thing about this is in here, here we are, we call the screen flash and instantly we call that animation track that plays that hurt sound. So the screen flash and the hurt play at the exact same time. Editor James here. Apparently Recording James never turned off the browser recording, so all the Godot code for these next 2 functions never actually got recorded. So I'm going to re-record them now, just in case you're wondering what the change is. That is why, because I was an idiot. So let's get over to it. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we're going to do the camera shake. And to do this, what we need to do is we need to add a camera. So let's come into our area 1. In the future, you probably want to do, especially when we get into the tiles stuff in chapter week 12, week 13. I can't remember exactly which one it is. When we start doing multiple levels, you're probably going to want to attach the camera to the actual player. I'm just going to attach it to the scene for right now. So let's add a child node. We'll add a camera because we're going to do a camera shake. So of course we need a camera. And then on the camera, let's attach a script. And let's see, in here, extends camera. We're going to need a couple variables. So let's see, let's do an @export variable. And the first thing we're going to need to know is we're going to need to know the player. It's because we need to figure out, when does the player get hit. So we need to respond when the player takes damage. So let's do that. This way we'll manually bind them. The next variable we need is a shake max offset. Oops, offset. There we go. Float equals 5.0. And this is just the maximum offset, or what's the maximum amount that we're going to shake that camera. The next one is going to be, this one's going to be very important, and this is going to be called the shake decay. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off violently shaking the camera, and then slowly it's going to settle down. And that rate of which it settles down is going to be our shake decay. So we're going to set this as a float. And we're going to set this equal to 1.0 to start with. Let's see, we need 2 more here. We need an export var. We need a shake trauma. Shake trauma. Float equals 0. Oops. So the shake trauma is going to be what our initial stuff is. And that is going to be, how violently do we want to shake? So if we only take 1 point of damage, maybe it'll just be this much initially. If we take 10 points of damage, the camera's going to do this. And that's the initial trauma. And then we're going to do a slightly different type of export here we haven't done before. It's called an export range. Export range. Here we go. And what this is going to allow us to do is this is going to allow us to basically have like a slider. And so then we can go ahead and, oops, or greater. Greater. Yep, okay. Bar. And this is going to be the shake power. Okay, float equals 0.5 is what our default is going to be. Okay. And so when we do, let's just go ahead and save this. So if we come down here and you look, this gives us a little slider. So then we can slide anywhere between, we defined our beginning range is 0, top range is 1, and the increments are 0.05. So then each time we slide this slider, it could go 0.05. Okay, so that's what that is for. We'll assign our player right now while I'm thinking of it. Okay, and let's come back in here. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. There we go. Ready. Okay, so here we need to attach our player. And so what we should do, we should say if player, because if someone forgets to export it, like what we just did, then it's going to give an error saying, hey, null reference. But what we want to do is, if someone forgets to export, we want to keep the game going. So we're going to say if player, like if there is something. Right now, because I set this to null, if I don't export it, it's going to say there is no player. So it's going to just keep moving. And so what we need to do is we need to connect to our player. We're going to need a signal in our player, so let's call it player hurt connect, and we're going to need to pass this into a function. We're going to call it shake camera. We'll just call it shake camera. Okay, so let's take this and let's go down here. We're going to make our function shake camera, and I'm going to do it slightly different than the previous me did. So let's do a value, and this is going to be basically, this is going to become our shake trauma. So let's just set it, could be a float, and we're going to set it equal to, by default, let's put it equal to 1.0. Okay. And so by doing it this way, is this becomes optional. So you see up here, we're not passing a variable at all to it. So when it comes in here, this value gets an automatic assignment of 1.0 because we didn't pass it a value. If we want to pass it a value, I can do .bind and say press 2. So every time the player hurt signal comes, it's going to pass it in with a default with a value of 2 into this. So we don't want to do that, but there are times when you want to do something like that. Like say you're going to have an entire list of buttons and they all have just slightly different values. You can do a .bind and say it's button 1, 2, 3, 4 for each one of your buttons, and that's what it listens to, and then it passes that button value down into it. So say you're making a calculator, you can just say input button, and then you can just pass it, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever you want to do. So let's see here. So we got this, we've got that. We need, what else do we need here? Player shake camera. Let's write our shake camera process here. So let's see here. Shake camera, we got a value of float. So all we need to do here is we need to assign our shake trauma, and that's going to equal to the value that gets passed in. Okay, so that's all this is going to do. The trick in the way we're going to handle this is we're going to use our physics process. So let's do that right here. Physics process, and what we're going to do is we're going to take that trauma value, and we're going to, if there is one, then we'll start applying the shake, and then slowly we're going to subtract from it until it doesn't exist anymore. Then the shake will stop. So let's see here in the physics process, we want to say if shake trauma is greater than 0, okay, and then we want to do shake trauma, and then we're going to set max, which means of these arguments, take whatever value is the highest. Shake trauma is max of shake trauma minus shake decay, because we're trying to bring it down. But of course, we don't want to just get rid of all at once. We want to times that by delta, so we have that nice little, figuring out, 60 frames a second. If you put this in process, we don't want, 240 frames. We don't want it to be over with. Unlike 30 frames where it goes on too long, things like that. So, and then the last value here is what's our second value? 0. So if it ever becomes, shake trauma minus shake decay times delta ever gets below 0, we're going to take the 0 because that's going to be larger. So that's why we want to do that. So shake trauma, then if it becomes 0 equals 0, we don't do any of this stuff. And then we're going to call a function called shake. And this is where we're going to do the actual camera shake. Okay, so let's put that right here. Whoop. Function shake. And this is going to be the fun function where all this good stuff happens. And so in here, we're going to do a new variable. We're going to say the amount. And the amount's going to be a float. And we're going to set that equal to power. We're raising it exponentially. So power is how we use the power function. And if you look here, of course, because it's at the end and I have the text bigger. So if we go pow, you can see here, where's the base and what's the exponent? What power are we raising it to? So we're going to start with shake trauma. And then we're going to times that by shake power. Okay. And then we're going to square it so that it gets exponential. And then we're going to set our camera offset. And that's going to be a vector 2. And then what we want to do is we want to do a random f range. And we're going to say somewhere between 1 and -1 because we don't want all over the place. And then we're going to do the same thing here. Random range. Random f range. -1. Oops. -1, comma 1. And then we're going to times this by our shake max offset times the amount that we calculated before. Times amount. Okay. And then that's all there is to that. Make sure we got our physics process. We got our shake equals value. And then we got shake. So we can manually call shake camera if we want to. Or we can, if we manually call it, we can change the value of this. So that there is pluses and minuses to how you want to do that stuff. So, okay, so let's jump back over into do and our player here, and let's set up. We already have a signal health update, but that could be healing, so we don't want to use that. So let's make our new signal here that we talked about, which is player hurt. Okay, and then we need to signal this when a player gets hurt. So going down to our take damage. Here's our screen flash. So player hurt dot emit. Okay, and I think that should be enough to get our screen flash going. Let's try that. Oop, I forgot one key thing. When we added the camera to the scene, if you zoom out here, you see this pink box? That's our camera. Need to move that so that it lines up properly with the origin. There we go. So now, there we go. You notice we have the nice camera shake now. We don't have the camera shake when we die because remember the take damage, if you come back in here, as soon as if the health is less than 0, we go to die. And if you come down to our die function, we start calling the game manager game over, which if you remember right here, it says, hey, we're going to just change the entire scene right off. So we pause the game, fade out, change the scene. So if you want to properly have this, you probably want to have a new die animation. Call the die animation like right here. When that's done, then you can call the scene transition. So it'd be as simple as put the animation player, death, await animation finished, then call the scene transition. So if you want to do that in your game, feel free to. Yeah, let's head on over to itch.io and let's take a look here. Let's go to our game assets. We'll go free, and then we'll just type weapon. And let's see. What do we want to give more? Let's be something like really silly. We don't want to give them bullets or a gun because that's going to be a little bit more than what we're looking for right now. Hey, look, here we go. Weapons pack free. Whoops. Right here. This looks like some swords and stuff. So let's give them you know what? Let's give them a lightsaber. That sounds like fun. Let's do this. Let's download this. Following that bit from old James, we're going to take a look at adding the lightsaber into our player. This is not going to be a very good implementation, but it's going to get the idea across for whatever you use in your game. So we come over to our player. Let's give him a sprite. We're going to call this sprite lightsaber. Okay, and then we're going to come down here. We're going to find our, where are we here? Weapons. Go into our lightsaber sprite. We're going to create what's called an atlas texture. That's because we have, if you look here, whoops, let me go back to 2D. So if I drag this out, you can see we have all these different things. An atlas texture allows us to come in here and edit and just trim out a certain section. So if we come down here, we go to edit region. We turn on our pixel snap. And then let's give him, he's a good guy. Let's give him a blue lightsaber. Come down here. I know it's probably hard to see, but there is a little bit of actual blue there. So we'll give him that. We'll give him this. There we go. There's blue, blue, blue. And yeah, right there. That's good. Okay. So we'll give Mort this lightsaber. We'll move this around here. We'll put it right. Put it right here. He's going to wield it like a lance. It's going to be a lightsaber lance. That's what it's going to be. Okay. So we need to add to this. We need to add a hitbox so that we can actually attack Mort with it. And then with that, we need to add a collision shape. Let's just give it a, oops. Let's just give it a rectangle here. And so this is one of those things where, you know, what a lot of people like to do, especially new developers, they're going to come right in and they go, whoops, didn't mean to do that. They're going to come right into this collision shape and they're going to make it match this blade exactly. And they're going to go through the animation player and they're going to make it match that blade exactly. So it's only going to hit if it actually would hit. I'll tell you right now, that is not fun gameplay because you're going to be missing enemies left and right. You're like, I should have hit. That should have hit. So what we do is usually we just make it a little bit bigger than the actual thing. You know, adjusting the length is probably fine because you want to get that sort of ends there, but you kind of want to give a little bit more. And then I like to bring it all the way back to the center of the player. So then if an enemy's overlapping and we use this, it's going to still hit and hurt them. Okay. The big thing we want to do for this is on the hitbox. We want to make sure it exists on layer 2. This is the player, and we're not going to listen for anything. So we don't need to be monitoring. We're just going to be monitorable. And this is the player's attack box. And then let's see, we need to go over to Mort. So if we save this here, we're going to go over to Mort. Mort, we need to add a hurt box to you. Let's add a collision shape. I'm just going to make this nice and easy. We're going to, you know what, we can just duplicate that. And we'll just put that down here. There we go. Okay, so these are just the same. I'm going to do one last thing here. Is I'm going to make this unique. Make resources unique. Shape. Okay. And then I'm going to change the color of it to red. There we go. So then if I turn this off, we still got the hitbox here is blue. And then the hurt box is red. Okay. So we got the hurt box. Oh, we need to also set its layers. So this is going to be listening for the player to attack. So we're going to say player 2 here. So it's going to be monitoring for it. We're not going to be monitorable. And now we need to come into Mort. Need to do exactly what we did with our player. We need to give them, you know, var health int equals. Let's give them 3, just like we gave to Mort. Let's see. We can actually just copy a lot of this stuff right out of the player. So let's go look at the player here. We've got, yep, we'll want that so we can give Mort a health bar. Let's see what else we got. We got player. We don't need the hurt. More. We will need the hurt box to connect up here. Let's see here. What else we need? Health. We will want the max health. Max health. Okay. And we'll actually use the max health today, unlike last week where I totally forgot about it. Let's see. What else do we need? Ready. Yep. We'll want to connect in the hurt box. So in the ready function, I'll add in that. That means we're also going to need this take damage function. So we'll just copy that right over. I'll add that in here. The big difference here is I don't need this. We don't need the flash. We don't need that. We don't have a hurt player. So we can get rid of all this. That's fine. We need a die function. So let's just make this one real easy. Function die. We're just going to do a queue free. So once he's dead, he'll just queue free. Let's see. We've added health. We need the health bar on Mort. So let's just borrow the one from the player. We'll copy the progress bar. We'll just paste that in. There's right above his head. And let's just double check, make sure. This is okay. We need to change this. So let's take this copy. We're going to detach this. These are built in, so I don't believe I had to detach it the way I did, but we're going to do it this way anyway. Create. We're going to paste this in. The big difference here is we're not using a player. We're going to use enemy. So we're here. It says player do. We're going to put enemy Mort. There we go. Okay. So now he has a health bar. We have health. So let's just make sure that works first before we go to the next step. So if we go here, we have our lightsaber. And he goes away. Okay. So let's add in our hurt animation to Mort. So come down to Mort. We got animation player. We already have this nice hurt animation, but let's add in. Let's see here. We need to add in an audio player 2D, audio stream player 2D, and we're going to add that into the frame here. So if we add audio playback track, we'll select the player. Okay. And then we're just going to use that same hurt sound again. So we'll bring that in. We'll put that right here. Okay. So we got that. And now we need to make Mort get hurt. And so the thing is, like, we could just come in here, and I think I already have, yeah, animation player. If we come into our take damage right here, and we just do animation player to play hurt. You know, you'd think this is all you need to do, but I'm going to show you, you know, watch what happens here. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. There are some times, if I really slowed this down, you might see like one frame of him starting that animation. But what's happening is he's in, remember we have the state machine. We have idle, patrol, or idle, walk, and chase. And right now, when he's in those states, we're always setting those animations to play when he's in those states. So the easiest way to do this is we're just going to add another state. We're going to add in hurt state. Okay. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to take this, we're going to cut that out. We're going to do current state equals hurt. Oh, it needs to be the full thing. It needs to be, how do we address this again? State dot hurt. There we go. State dot hurt. We're going to need a state dot hurt. And then we're going to need a handle hurt function. Okay. Idle, we're going to make use of just basically copying the idles. So let's put this right here. Function hurt. Void. We're going to set the velocity dot x to 0. We're going to put in our play animation hurt. And then this is going to be the key on this one. We're going to do in the wait AnimationPlayer.animation finished. And then we're going to set back our current state to state.idle. Okay. And so what that will do is it'll play the, oh, this is supposed to be handle hurt. Handle hurt. There we go. Yeah, see? Not found. Handle hurt. Good thing we have that. So what this will do is it'll go into the hurt state. It'll play the animation and sound effect. And when the animation is done, it's going to kick back out into idle. So if we go in here, we take a look at this. Oh. There we go. And I just want to show you this one real quick thing. So if we come back into Mort, we go to Animation Player. If we had set this to looping, it's going to produce something really funky. Because what's going to happen is he's going to get hurt. He's just going to keep going over and over and over again. He's never going to kick out of the state. And it seems pretty obvious now for why that would happen. Because, hey, you know, we just set his hurt animation to constantly loop. But this one trips up people a lot, especially when they start getting into the more like player-controlled finite state machines, because your idle animation a lot of times is set for looping. Your walk animation is set for looping. And people will forget sometimes on those, and they'll have an animation that's looping and go, hey, why am I never kicking out of the state? Because animation.finish, that signal is never firing because the animation is always looping. And then the one other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure in more progress bar, we're in this ready. What we want to do is we want to say enemy mort. Actually, we want to do max value equals enemy mort dot max health. Max health. HEALTH. There we go. So then what this will do is when we set up the progress bar, it's going to say the max health is going to be equal to whatever max, if we come back up here, max health is. So then if we say it's 5, and we run our scene, you can see he's going to start where it looks like he's hurt already. Whereas if we set it to 10, it's going to really look hurt. So that's what that's for. And it just makes things a lot easier to take care of these scenes this way. But there you go. You've got screen flash when you get hit. You have got the camera shake. And you have the animation track where it's got the audio and the visual showing Mort getting hurt. 3 feedback systems, all firing together, all tied to meaningful game moments. Your game just got significantly more satisfying to play, and you haven't changed any of the actual gameplay. That's what feedback does. It doesn't change the game. It makes the game legible. It makes the player feel the game rather than just observing it. Video 4 is a short one. We're going to talk about restraint. How many of these moments does your game actually need? And when does more feedback become less effective? We'll see you there.